How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Comic Book History Today, and today we're going to be going over Green Lantern, issue 31 to 32, because I know I got behind a little bit. I'm in the middle of a move, and my birthday was March 1st, so I've kind of been a little bit caught up recently. But anyway, this heads off with Barry Allen in the back of a police car. As he says, "My name is Barry Allen, and up until a short while ago, I was the fastest man alive. Now, I'm being placed in witness protection until I can testify at the trial of mob boss Anthony Bordello, a young upstart from the VD crime family trying to make a name for himself here in Central City. But Anthony has a bit of a temper, murdering one of his regular call girls at a skeevy hotel on the east side, and I have the DNA evidence and trial expertise to prove it. I'm guessing he'll get life in Iron Heights if I live long enough to testify, that is. And the two cops taking him are clearly paid out by the very mob that he has to prosecute, because he says these two officers, Daly and Winthrop, are supposed to be taking me to a safe house, but they turned right instead of left. A shortcut, they said, but I know every square inch of this city. They aren't taking me to the safe house. One of them, Barry says, is really nervous and is sweating profusely, but the other, he says, Winthrop, on the other hand, is as cool as a Central City fall, his left hand scratching at his leg. I'm guessing that's where he put his throwaway piece. So Barry jumps out of the police car, making a mad dash to an alleyway where we cut over to Green Lantern, who's conveniently already on the way to Barry because he's been doing a sort of tour de France of all of his friends, trying to figure out what to do about the visions he's been getting. And he gives us a bit of a recap of this, saying, "Just keep it together, Jordan. My brain hasn't been right since the Book of Oa deposited these visions in my head. If you can call them visions, they feel more like memories." And so as he hears the gunshots, he pieces together that the cops are shooting at Barry, and he makes his way over there, also saying that cops are after the most straight-laced guy I know, which means they're dirty cops, and there's only one way to handle dirty cops. So he makes a giant truck, and he just runs these guys right over. Allen says it took him long enough, and after some minor discussion about the status of the officers, Barry informs Hal he needs a ride home. So Hal reasonably constructs a literal UFO, because that's discreet, and we jump over to the crime family that Barry is actually trying to testify against. The head honcho, Anthony, is having a bit of a hissy fit over Barry's escape, and he asks if they tried to pay him off. Now, he's told that they did, and now Barry's upping bribery charges, and his goons try and tell him not to worry as they have more dirty cops on payroll. But Anthony tells them he wants to call in a character named Bruto. Now, the dudes say that Bruto kind of made a mess of things the last time, but Anthony doesn't care. He wants Bruto. And so we jump over to Barry and Hal outside of Barry's apartment as he's telling Hal to repeat the instructions of where he hid the evidence back to them. Just then, Hal kind of asks if he's good to go, and Barry says, "Yeah, if you tell me why you didn't come to me for help first. You didn't think Ollie would call Bruce?" Hal is like, "They tattled on me, for real?" And Barry's like, "No, they were worried about you, and if they're worried, I'm worried. Batman sent me the specs. The tachyon radiation isn't dissimilar to some of the readings I get from the cosmic treadmill. My theory, I think you sent a message to yourself." Now, Hal is like, "How would I even do that?" And Barry's like, "I'm sure you'll find out, but if I'm right, then you need to listen to these visions. These feelings you're having, well, if I'm wrong, you have a bunch of friends that will have your back if it goes bad. And speaking of, so they need to get on a move." And Hal goes into Barry's apartment, keeping in touch via some Justice League communication devices, and he locates the lamp with the hidden evidence. And when he says he's on his way out, he asks if Barry has a dog, but Barry says no, and Hal's kind of like, "Then what, as he's thrown out of the window with a loud crash, and he's carrying the lamp with him, but following after him is the aforementioned Bruto, a hulking man with a dope-looking red and black suit and a hat combo to go with, and gold skin, which isn't elaborated on here whether or not that's intentionally done or if it's just a stylistic choice, but I'd be interested to see, and I think we will. But anyway, he introduces himself saying, "Hello gentlemen, my name is Bruto, and it seems you have some evidence that is causing a variety of problems for my employer. How's about we just hand it over and we all go have a nice day?" But just then, Barry whispers to Hal, "Can you make a hammer and hit 3 feet in front of us as hard as you can?" Doing so, Hal breaks the road in front of them, causing Bruto to plummet down into this crevasse that's been created. Hal is skeptical that Barry just knew that, saying, "And you just knew that was going to happen?" And Barry responds, "Stress fractures from where he landed, coupled with the age of the buildings and the weakening of the oriented strand board under the shingles meant this place was primed to go. Just like we should go. I mean, court is starting any minute. And so just as they say that, Bruto comes flying out of the hole he was in, yelling, "This suit is custom!" And he grabs a hold of Hal's ankle, throwing him into the ground beneath them and breaking his concentration that was keeping Barry up in the air. So Barry starts plummeting down, and he calls to Hal, who conveniently wakes up and catches him with a net. And just then, Bruto has a group of his lackeys open fire on them with some Tommy guns, very mob boss-esque, and Hal puts up a construct shield saying, "I can do this dance all day, but that won't help you get to the courthouse on time, especially with Mr. Angry Pants there trying to kill us. If only you had your super speed." And then Barry gets an idea when he asks, "Wait, that's it? Your light constructs can maintain speed, mass, and velocity, right?" And as the shield construct comes down, Barry reveals himself in a green constructed Flash outfit, running through the goons, knocking them out one by one, as we get a little inner dialogue on how this is working exactly. While Hal says, "I just have to push Barry forward as a construct and let him steer his body." And then Barry says, "Hal is doing a great job. It's not as maneuverable as I want, but still, it feels good to be back." Taking off towards the courthouse, he leaves Hal to hold these guys off alone. Bruto pieces together that Hal has to maintain his concentration though in order for Barry to get there on time, so he just gets on the assault, clobbering Hal left and right, saying, "And here I thought the Green Lantern was tough. You ain't nothing." And so Hal hopes that Barry made it on time, and he comes in over the earpiece confirming that he had arrived, allowing for Hal to cut loose on Bruto a little, catching the punch he was about to throw and hitting him with an even bigger constructed fist, and he plugs the guns of the goons that are with Bruto with carrots, detonating them like explosives inside the guns, and then he wraps Bruto up in a yarn ball-like construct, asking if he's had enough yet. However, tearing out of the construct, Bruto says it's not even remotely enough, and Hal actually asks for a timeout as he's getting a phone call, and Bruto's really insulted by this, because he's like, "Bruto isn't giving you a timeout." And hilariously, Hal looks at him and is just like, "After Barry's testimony, they decided to plead out. It looks like your guy is going away for a long time, which means we don't really have to do this anymore." And so Bruto is kind of like, "You know what? I don't like you, but you're definitely right there." And he says, "Don't worry, Green Lantern, we'll have a rematch someday, and next time I won't take it so easy on you." So finally for this issue, Barry and Hal catch up and they say their goodbyes as Barry leaves Hal with the final message, "Lean into whatever this is, and if you get into trouble, we'll have your back." Jumping over into the next issue, it starts with Star Sapphire and Dove as they're flying through Paris on a dispatch for an SOS. Star says that she loves Paris and it's a shame that they're here on a mission because she could go for a baguette, but she's saying that she doesn't see anything, and she asks Dove who called in the SOS when she says it was an arrogant fighter jock with an ego the size of the Watchtower. So Star asks what she means, and just then Hal cuts in saying, "She's talking about me. I do believe I owe you a date." And so Carol is really taken aback by all this, and Hal talks for her as she stutters through, saying she's free for the next 24 hours, already cleared by the Justice League, and Dove leaves through a boom tube, leaving the two lovebirds to their date, which they kick off with some shopping. So next we do pick up with Krona, and remember, Krona is currently on the hunt for a missing piece of the origin of the Lanterns, and he was trying to assume the body of Hal Jordan, but the process was interrupted, causing him to look sort of like a damaged version of him. And so we pick back up with him on this alien planet saying, getting off Oa was easy, the world was in chaos, lanterns left, lanterns stayed, those fools are trying to weave together a world of emotions, but they don't know the truth, how could they? Unfortunately, those meddlesome others have decided to follow. If they find it before me, I won't let them. As we see him traveling through this alien planet, he says also, I've found a ship. This strange creature wants what every creature wants, money. Too bad for him, I'll need it all for my journey. One I must make alone. I just need to stay ahead of them, make sure I find it first, the truth, the whole truth. And so, catching up with the Lantern lovebirds in Paris, Hal says, I'll be paying Ollie back forever, but it's worth it. And Carol comes out in this red dress, which leaves Hal's jaw on the floor, and they set off for some fun, dancing through the city, seeing some sights, and Hal says to himself, no one knows me better, so why am I so nervous? And in his head he says, because you haven't told her everything, dummy. You need to tell her how you feel. And so he does. He tells her everything about the Book of Oa and the visions he's been having. And when she asks why he didn't tell her sooner, he says it's because things were good between the two of them. This exposition was really needed for the two. It's been like a decade since we kind of got teased that he was going to propose to Carol, and it's just nice to get a nice romantic story for Valentine's Day, even though I'm late covering it. Sorry, guys. And so he says that he didn't want to mess things up, and she says, nothing could mess that up, Hal. Not forever anyway. I thought you'd know that by now. In the end, we're stuck together whether you like it or not. And so, on that note, Hal turns, and he preps himself for the big moment that he's gonna propose. And just then, Carol turns and asks if he heard that. Hal tries to divert her attention though by saying, my heart pounding louder than an F-14? And she's like, no. But she sees what she's looking for, jumping up and heading out, leaving Hal with a ring behind his back and a tinge of disappointment. And causing all of this chaos is Cupid. So when Carol shows up, she hollers, you kind of ruined my Valentine's Day. So how about you stop whatever it is you're doing so I can try and salvage whatever's left of the evening? And Hal seconds that, being like, yeah, because, you know, your girl gets all mad and then you gotta second it and follow up behind her. And so she's like, nah, and blasts the two of them with an RPG, connecting with her superiors, telling them that there's two heroes on her tail. Star Sapphire gives her an out to try and go quietly, but Cupid's like, oh honey, I've never done anything quiet in my whole life, I'm not about to start now. She throws an explosive at the two of them, which detonates this massive blast, and it knocks the ring out of Hal Jordan's pocket. Not that I thought those suits had an abundance of pocket potential, but whatever. And so Star sees the ring. Hal, piecing together what's happening here, he gets on one knee and says, this isn't how I wanted to do this. I had this cake in Paris, but Carol is pissed. She cuts in and says, did she ruin your proposal? Did she ruin my proposal? And she is just lit up with power. Cutting over to Cupid, who's now on the move, Star Sapphire jumps on her, charging with a constructed fist, hurling some choice words at her left and right as well. And just in the nick of time, Hal Jordan shows up putting a leash on this giant dog construct that I think Carol was about to use to teach Cupid a lesson. Now, Hal kind of says that he thinks she learned it, and Cupid agrees vehemently. But while Star Sapphire is examining this relic that Cupid was stealing, she says that it feels like it's a part of her, sort of familiar. She's drawn to it. And as this little gem floats into her ring, it floods her with this surge of power, and as the voice speaks to her from the ring, it says, Carol Ferris, once queen of the Zamarons, you are caretaker of what is left of the Star Sapphire. You are acquainted with one part of 8, that piece being twisted into an emotion, into a lantern, but it is much more. It is the greatest force in the universe, split apart long ago. 8 pieces hidden, 8 aspects of love, eros, philia, storge, ludus, pragma, Philutia, agape, mania. Mania you know, agape you have found. The others you must find to wield the full Star Sapphire. Shine the light of love into the universe once again. So basically she just got a cosmic call to honor, saying that she has to go find the other 8 pieces of love in order to shine the light of love back into the universe. Hal goes up to her to make sure she's okay, and he says that they could still get engaged tonight. But Star declines. Now, not entirely, but she says, not like this. Not when you have to go and I have to stay. Ask me again when you come back, when you're safe. Ask me when I can actually be present. We can be present. Hal agrees to this, and after they share a final kiss, with Hal heading to the moon for his next stop. Before he must embark on his journey to follow these visions, he's got to go to find Kyle Rayner, who he told to go wait on the moon, and because he's bored, Kyle has been recreating a baseball game. Green Lantern kind of shows up and he walks to the view of the Earth in all of its glory, saying, she's gorgeous, isn't she? You know, when Batman got a sidekick, I thought it was about the most irresponsible thing a man could do, putting someone so young in harm's way. Then Ollie did it, Barry. I still think it's pretty stupid, but then again, I saw who those kids turned out to be. Maybe I was wrong. If I ever were to have a sidekick, I hope he'd be like you. You're still the best of us, Kyle, Torchbearer. Kyle's kind of worried at this point, and he asks what's going on. And Hal says, I have to go away. I'm not sure for how long, but do me a favor, would you? Take care of her. She means the universe to me. and as Hal gets blasted with this green beam, he leaves the Earth to Kyle once more. Now, if you guys did enjoy this one, be sure to stick around for more comic book based content, and yeah, sorry I was so late to get to these 2 issues. Have a good one. See ya.